the Lord has given us this tool to reach the world, and we need to do everything we can to make sure our marriages are strong.
Welcome to the Grace Marriage Podcast. I'm Brad Rhodes.
And I'm Marilyn Rhodes. We're here to help you build a marriage that's stronger, more connected, and full of grace.
I'm Rick Dayton, joining Brad and Marilyn as we bring you weekly conversations designed to inspire and equip you to live intentionally in your marriage.
We'll share practical tips, powerful stories, and strategies to help you and your spouse grow closer and thrive together.
So whether you're just starting out or have been married for years, there's always room to grow. Let's do this together. This is the Grace Marriage Podcast.
Welcome to the Grace Marriage Podcast. I have a good friend, Dr. Herschel York, on the podcast. Dr. York is the dean of the School of Theology at Southern Seminary. He's former pastor at Buck Run Baptist, was for years, and is a full-time professor at Southern Seminary. And the reason he's on the podcast is because he has an amazing marriage with his wife, Tanya, has a lifetime of marriage ministry, ministering through his own marriage, and the impact he has. His marriage comes out in his preaching, because out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks, and Tanya's on his heart. So welcome to the podcast, Dr. York.
Thank you. Delight to be with you again.
Yeah, we're talking about in this episode. What I talk about a little bit is marriage ministry in the church. You're lead pastor for a long time in churches, and I want you to first kind of share what opportunity the church has to make a difference in marriage. Because marriage is, for a long time, a lot of bad developments in the marriage space, from no-fault divorce to redefinition to divorce rate to general perceptions. What can the church do to step forward and be the salt and light and change that narrative?
Well, just like a couple has to prioritize their own marriage, churches have to prioritize marriage in the church family. You've got to talk about it. You've got to train people for it from the time they're not. Don't even wait till they're getting engaged to do premarital counseling. You need to be talking about it to your youth, talking to them about what their expectations for marriage should be as they seek and choose a spouse, or the kind of husband and wife they want to be, and the kind of husband or wife they're looking for. You need to help parents to have those conversations with their kids. And you certainly need to be training your married couples how to do it for the glory of God, how to make their marriage a laboratory and a showcase for the grace of God and the truth of God's word.
That's so good. I had a question for you. You've been in ministry a long time, and I think the number is 98% of churches have children's ministries and youth ministries, and most of them have full-time people in both spots. But it's like very, very rare for any church to have an ongoing marriage ministry. Why do you think it is that we have such a focus and investment in children and youth with full-time staff people, and then at best most churches will do one marriage conference a year?
It really is a strange thing, because one of the things when we look at our kids, we sort of sometimes feel the pressure and the panic of it, because we know what they don't know. That is that their decisions have consequences that they can live with the rest of their life for a bad decision they make when they're 17. And so we got to teach them and train them so they don't do that. What we're ignoring is we can do that in our marriages when we're 44, that we can make bad decisions that we and a lot of other people have to live with for the rest of our lives. And we need to put that same investment into marriages and be constantly teaching about it, training people, showing them how to apply the Word of God. And this is where I think churches often fail when it comes to adult ministries in general, and specifically marriage ministries, is that we're really good about teaching sort of the storyline of the Bible and a certain content of the Bible, even doctrine of the Bible, but not application, not what this looks like in daily life, in the way you treat your husband, your wife, the way you do marriage, the way you live together. I'm not sure why we've not caught this, because it's so obvious when you hear those statistics and you see so many marriages struggling in our churches.
Well, and you look, we've spent, I think the study shows, billions and billions of dollars on children and youth ministry. Over the last 10 years. Billions. Yeah. We spent almost nothing on marriage ministry. And if you look at the Barna studies, it does not appear that our younger generation is necessarily going in the right direction. And I believe a lot of that's because we really haven't gone upstream and taking care of that marriage. So like a big thing at Grace Marriage, we say every family ministry should include children's ministry, youth ministry, and marriage ministry. Otherwise, it's what we call a dysfunctional family ministry. So how do you
Right.
feel about churches like saying, okay, we're going to be intentional. We're going to invest time and money and launch an ongoing marriage ministry that's going to be part of this church as long as this is a church.
Well, I think it's essential. I mean, first of all, that is a pastor's best friend because it's going to save him an awful lot of time and trouble down the road. It's, as well as I do, preventive medicine is a whole lot better than trying to cure people of a disease they already have. And that's true in marriage. If you can teach people on the front end before they hit those problems and encounter the challenges so that they know how to deal with it, then you're going to be better off. And yet, a lot of times we're coming along trying to make up for lost time and missing the boat on how to get to the marriage on the front end.
So a lot of people listen to this podcast. Some are church leaders, but a lot of folks just lay people that love marriage. If you're lead pastor for a church, you have a lay person who loves marriage, and they're thinking, man, this resonates with me. Our church needs to do better with marriage. They need to be intentional with marriage ministry to invest in it. How can that person approach their pastor, and how can that person be a blessing to their church?
Well, first of all, at Grace Marriage, man, you have really laid out a very doable course of action for churches. And I think if someone just went to a pastor and said, "Hey, Pastor, I really think this would be a great investment for us to make time wise, and I'm willing to be a point person. I'm willing to shoulder some of this load. If you'll give the go ahead and let us begin to arrange this, I think that would be a wonderful tool." Every time somebody came to me and said, "Pastor, you need to do such and such," immediately I just felt the shutters close. When someone came to me and said, "Hey, Pastor, I feel a burden for something, and I'm willing to do the work in this if you'll just give me the okay." Oh, I was really receptive. I can tell you the greatest stuff that happened in the churches I pastored was the result of people coming to me with burdens and also willingness for them to take the point in it. And I just think that would be a great step for a person with this burden to take.
Yeah, that's very well said. So, like, if you came to your pastor and said, "Hey, we'd love to have an ongoing marriage ministry. There's Grace Marriage out there. Do you care if we start by launching one group and I'll facilitate that group and we'll see how it goes?" And I mean, as a pastor, you're going to be receptive to that.
Absolutely. Especially, I will tell you, what I've learned a long time ago is that always got to deal with somebody's fear, whatever their fear is, and a pastor can have a fear sometimes that something's going to happen that is outside of his control or is going to be undermining certain things. If a person says, "Hey, the sole purpose of this is to help people connect in marriage. We're not taking the place of Sunday school. We're not going to be talking about problems in the church. This is going to be about cultivating godly marriages." And man, I'm willing to help make this happen and sort of show them the way Grace Marriage works. I think a pastor would be incredibly receptive to that.
Yeah, and so I remember when one pastor told me, "I look at my budget and I spend a lot more on landscaping than marriage." You know,
Wow.
so I've had pastors, so I just want to say I do believe a movement started where it's going to become commonplace that every Bible believing church will have ongoing marriage ministries. There was a time that youth ministry wasn't a thing. And then all of a sudden, churches started doing youth ministries, and it wasn't too long till every church had one. I do think the same thing has happened in the marriage space. And Dr. York, I want to just thank you for help expediting that because it's long overdue.
It really is. And in fact, not only does it need to happen in church, it needs to happen in seminaries, in Bible colleges, wherever we're training pastors. We really need to train them how to prioritize marriage in their ministries because it's just going to be key to so much that happens. How can a church be strong in reaching the nations if their marriages are weak? I mean, we can get up and preach missions and evangelism, but if our marriages are failing, how effective are we going to be at missions and evangelism?
Yeah.
So, this is a great tool to put in the hands of pastors as early as possible.
Yeah, and the reason I would say, and I'd love your thoughts on it, the reason you get so excited about marriage ministry is because you're so excited about Tanya and you enjoy marriage so much. So when you enjoy and have really enjoy in marriage, it's like, man, you want other people to experience that as well. One of my board members
Yeah.
said, you'll learn a lot about somebody's marriage and how they respond to your message. He said, if they're super excited about it, they're probably having a blast at home. And if it just lands on deaf ears, it means they probably have a typical stagnant coexistent marriage.
I've often said, Brad, if Tanya and I could bottle and sell what we feel for each other, we'd be gazillionaires. Because who wouldn't want that? I mean, if you could have been with us and our recent vacation, just the two of us, just delighting in each other, just soaking up each other's presence, not having to share one another, no, no phones to answer. I got off email the whole bit. It was just wonderful. And, we want everybody that's married and a Christian to have that because it's what glorifies the Lord. And it is what reflects the love Christ has for his church and the church's response to Christ. So, I mean, this is just so key to our mission, that the Lord has given us this tool to reach the world. And we need to do everything we can to make sure our marriages are strong.
Yeah, and people they understand you have to battle for it. Scripture says if you get married, you will have much trouble. So while marriage isn't rocket science, and that's another podcast, if you spend time together and give each other grace, it works. But you got to battle. Like Marilyn and I are so different. I mean,
Yeah.
Marilyn feels like every need is one we need to meet. It's like, I mean, we tip the electrician. I mean, and sometimes it starts getting on my nerves. And, I'm thinking, babe, we got to slow the roll. And then I shift my goggles away from adoring her, onto like focused on what gets on my nerves. And if I battle to shift my eyes back toward, she's knocked down gorgeous. She loves people. She gives away her life every day at her own detriment. Then all of a sudden look at her and I say, whoa, dog, that is, like you said, the pinnacle of womanhood. So it's that battle in the mind because we've all got enough annoying things about us that if somebody wants to focus on that, they can not like us quickly.
Yeah, it's exactly true. Recently Tanya said something to me about a little physical defect that she has sort of developed as she's aged. And she started talking to me about that. And I said, what are you talking about? I mean, and she said, have you not noticed? And I was like, well, no. And she said, well, look, I said, okay. Now, I mean, I see what you're talking about, but I literally had not noticed this thing. And, it's just, I think the more you discipline your mind, the more you idealize your spouse. It's not that you see them and love them in spite of their faults. It really is that you sort of don't see them at all. You see them as their ideal self instead of this person with all the flaws. And that I think is what is the result of love. I mean, when it says that we're to sanctify her, the washing of water by the word, in the same way that Christ is to, presents the church himself without spot or wrinkle. I think part of that sanctification process is in us, that we see her without spot or wrinkle. We see the beauty of her. And, Tanya, I mean, I know ostensibly that she doesn't look at 65 like she did at 25. But there are many, many ways to me that she's even more beautiful. And I married this young, inexperienced girl, and now I'm married to this incredibly wise, sophisticated woman with years of experience and insight and has walked with Jesus. And she's just grown more and more delightful and more beautiful. And, there are things about aging that are really lousy and you got to struggle through. But man, there's nobody I want to struggle through those things with but her. And so we talk to each other and about each other that way. And it disciplines your mind, and it enables you to see them in this wonderful way of love. There was an old movie years ago. I think it's a black and white movie called The Enchanted Cottage, about this couple that they were sort of really plain, even unattractive, but they fell in love with each other. And when they were in this cottage, they became these beautiful, just gorgeous people. I think that's what a good marriage does. I think we all sort of become, to use a bad metaphor, rock stars, or Hollywood stars or something in the confines of marriage. I mean, just name the most beautiful actress out there. That's Tanya to me. And she sees me like I'm James Bond or something, like I'm this just handsome man. Well, I know better. I can look in the mirror, but I'm glad she sees me that way.
Yeah,
And that is encouraging to me, that, she sees me as this wonderful, virile, masculine man. Wow.
that's
What
great.
an incredible encouragement.
One thing I say, especially to a lot of husbands I talk to, it's like, to be a good husband, you got to be able to take a punch. And I don't mean like getting punched in the face, but you got to
Yeah.
be able to take criticism. You got to be able to take input. You got to be able to. You said a lot of times I see the measure of a husband, if I watch it, oftentimes is how they respond when their wife gets onto them about something. Those that
Yeah.
get defensive, they get frustrated, they get mad, they come back sharply. They tend to have poor marriages. Those that can absorb it and be responsive, they tend to have less nagging wives and tend to be better husbands. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's absolutely true. Tanya and I tell a story about years ago. In fact, I could tell you the very date. It was the day of the full eclipse down in Western Kentucky. We drove down there to see it, and got in an argument when we left there to come back home. What was normally a 3-hour trip took 8 hours, because Western Kentucky Parkway was just a parking lot that day, because millions of people had gone to Western Kentucky to be in the path of totality to see this eclipse. Well, we were just mad at each other the whole way home. And when we got home, you know, we sort of went to separate parts of the house. I came up here to my study. She was down in the bedroom. And 30 minutes later, we can't do this. We can't be mad at each other. And we've got to fix this. And I go down to her and I said that we can't say this way. We gotta figure this out. And she looked at me and she said, paraphrasing from First Peter, she said, "You don't treat me like the weaker vessel. You treat me like the lesser vessel." And man, boy, you talk about a punch. It was a
Hmm.
punch. And my immediate response to her was, well, I don't get to do that. I don't get to do that. And, at that point, we've been married a long time, and I've been a pastor, seminary professor a long time. But I realized, uh, man, if my wife feels like I treat her like the lesser vessel, I've done something wrong. And she would tell you, man, I worked hard to fix that. I said, I've got to change. I don't ever want my wife feeling like I treat her like she's something lesser than me. I want to treat her as the incredible woman that God gave me. And so when you when you hear those things, even though sometimes you don't want to admit it, the very least you got to weigh it out and say, well, at the very least, I've created that perception. How am I creating the perception? If it's not what I feel, I'm doing something that makes it look like that's what I feel, and I can't do that. So you've got to be willing to say, Lord, show me my sinfulness, my weakness, my selfishness, and help me reflect the love of Christ for this wonderful woman you've given me.
Yeah, it's 2 days ago. I failed at this. I tried to wake up Blessed Barrel. So I washed our dog, gave her a shower, which I hate doing, and the dog hates it even more. And then she'd asked me to blow some things, the leaves off. I did that, and I just did a bunch of stuff. So she came home, I'm, wanting her to like Wow. you're, you're, you're,
You want the
you're,
gold star?
oh, dude, you're amazing, dude. Do you want me to sit here and compliment you? You want to go to the bedroom? You choose. But no, but she comes home and I told her on the phone I'd blown off. She came in, she goes, I thought you'd blown it off because there were still a few leaves. And I said, and man, it just went all through me. It's like, but humility is, oh, my bad. I didn't do a very good job at that. Let me go clear that up.
Yeah.
But what I said was, so I do all this, all this, all this, and what I get from you is, well, you didn't do a good job with the leaves.
Yeah.
And it threw us off sideways. But why? It's because wise man loves rebuke. A fool
Yeah.
shows annoyance at once. And I was that fool that shows annoyance at once, and it threw our car sideways that day in marriage. So I just say, as husbands, focus on when rebuked, when criticized, when corrected, be able to take it, process it, and respond in love, as opposed to getting frustrated that she's not as impressed with you as you feel she should be.
And it's one of the greatest sanctifying things in your life. I mean, the Lord uses that to make you more like Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And I need that. You need that. And so marriage is a great tool to make us like our Savior.
Yeah, and the only way to do it is to really grow in your relationship with Christ, because you can't self-will yourself to humility.
No,
Humility, you
that's
can't
right.
you can't fake humility, because if you do, it works about 5 minutes, and you say something stupid. You just have to. God has to make you a humble person, and then humility has to be the result of it. So I've kind of learned that man, that's when you go back to the cross. That's when you go back to your quiet time. That's when you go back and let the Lord bring your heart to a point of humility, so that responding correctly is like breathing, not like trying to bench 300 pounds.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, so when y'all got sideways, you talked about a minute ago, how quickly did it come back? I mean, how quickly did y'all get back to that adoration stage, that stage where you really enjoy one another?
You know, we really do try and live by don't let the sun go down on your wrath. I don't I don't recall something lasting into the next day for us in a long, 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 long time. We really do try and deal with it, and the next day get up refreshed. We work hard on making the first moments of each day really sweet. The way we treat each other first thing in the morning. I'm up well before her, but I bring her coffee when she wakes up, and we have certain rules. We don't discuss calendar or anything like that in those first moments. And then if I leave, go to the seminary, I come back at the end of the day, those first moments in the evening, again, there's certain things we don't dump on each other. We don't talk about the bad stuff. For 15 minutes, we're just going to try and encourage each other and love on each other. And then when we have to deal with stuff, we do it and we try and get it over with then. And the next, we try and put it past. The other thing we do is that, like, I will come back like the next day. I will bring it back up and say, I want you to know when I apologized yesterday, I really meant it. I'm genuinely working on that, and I haven't forgotten it. Even though we're moving on, I want you to hear me say I've taken it to heart and I'm acting on it. And that little bit of, we're not relitigating it. I'm just telling her I heard you. I am on it, and I want you to know I'm serious about that. That means a lot to her, and that way we don't have to relitigate it. She knows I heard and I'm acting on it.
That's good. Well, as we close out this episode, something you talked about earlier, you said, like, if you're listening to this podcast and you want your church to have an ongoing ministry, and you've been a lead pastor for decades, so I want you to just give a short training of these people that are listening to this podcast that want their church either to have an ongoing marriage ministry or to grow their ongoing marriage ministry. How, when they approach their pastor, how should they do it?
Yeah, I think they just say, hey, Pastor, I know that a lot of your job is helping people with problems in marriage. And I'm thinking that if we can help people on the front end of that, it's going to help you and it's going to help our church. I have learned about this ministry called Grace Marriage, and I'd like to start a group where we just have couples that encourage each other. it's a way we can do that. And I'd be willing to be the point person. I'd like you to just consider this. And if you give the go ahead, I'll help make this happen. And I think a pastor would be really open to that kind of an approach and that kind of a motivation. It's all positive and really no downside.
Yeah, that's so well said. I remember one time I was in a leadership position in church, wasn't on staff, but somebody came to me and said, "Hey, Brad, I see a problem with this." He said, "You care if I fix it for you and just do it?" I'm like, dude, yeah, I wasn't tempted to say no. So,
Yeah, that's right.
but it's great input. And Dr. York, husband, as we close, just want to thank you for your decades of ministry, your marriage, all the folks you've encouraged, your friendship. I remember the first time we met. It's like everything you said. I was like, oh, and then when I would talk, you were shaking your head. It's just so refreshing when you talk to
I
folks.
remember that.
They just get it, and
Yeah.
you can tell pretty quickly when somebody's really enjoying their marriage when you start talking to them about marriage.
You surely can. You surely can. And then when we met each other's wives, we both knew why the other one was so enamored with our wives.
Oh,
We're both incredibly blessed.
yeah. It's like somebody once have told me, so of course you've got a good marriage. You married Marilyn. He said, I'd be a good husband if I was married to Marilyn. I said, there's a lot of truth to that, but I'll take it. So, well, God bless you. And so Dr. York said, if you want to either start or grow a marriage ministry in your church or just start a Grace Marriage group, just go to gracemarriage.com. Just scroll down to where it says, I want to know more. Fill it out. We'll take care of it from there. But Dr. York, thank you so much for your friendship, your example. Thank you for preaching in our church recently. And man, I pray God's blessing and favor on you as you continue on in ministry.
Thank you, my friend. May the Lord bless you in Grace Marriage.
Thank you for joining us on the Grace Marriage Podcast. We really hope you're feeling inspired to take intentional steps to grow in your marriage.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with a friend. Your support helps us spread the message of grace and reach even more couples.
And if you have a moment, please leave us a review. Your feedback means a lot to us and helps others discover the podcast.
To learn more about how you can grow in your marriage, visit us at gracemarriage.com. Keep building stronger, grace-filled marriages.
We'll see you next week on the Grace Marriage Podcast. Until then, keep growing in grace.